Chicago lives up to its nickname, the Windy City. Winds of up to 90 miles an hour bring the less hardy to a standstill or use them like a Scotsman's curling stones.
Alley fight between Fitz and Combs. You both get to pick 3 all-time Sox and Cubs as part of your alley fight. My number 1 draft pick is Michael Barrett.
Michael Barrett, you're out of your mind.
Michael Barrett, do you see that right hook? Ask AJ Brzezinski if he wants to get hit with that right hook again.
You can ask AJ Brzezinski that.
I will.
That's such a podcast question.
Shut up. Go to Rizzo. It's in time. And the Chicago Cubs win the World Series. Uribe has it. He throws. Out! A White Sox winner and a World Championship.
And what is going on, Windy City Sports Talk fans? We're going to do this take 2 because I forgot to go live the first time, but that is all right. Look, a rookie mistake. You know, that's what happens when you're live. You know,
I love when you make mistakes.
I do it. It happens all the time, man. I've got 2 ex-wives. I make mistakes all the time. Anyway. Listening to our intro, I have to admit something. I wouldn't take Michael Barrett. I rewatched that fight, that scrum.
Years ago.
He sucker punches AJ, and AJ barely even stumbles, and then he gets taken down by Scott Podsednik. I'm not taking Michael Barrett.
Who, Scott Podsednik is like basically Peter Pan. Like, do you remember him in the outfield? He'd be like dancing around. He was super fast, very athletic, and could not play the outfield.
Yeah.
How did that even happen? Yeah, and he pulls him over, and then I think Brian Anderson, an ex center fielder, is supposed to be a star for the Sox. Never really came to fruition, but he was in on that fight. There was a lot of guys. That was, like I said before when we were talking that night, when you were running your mouth. That was when those series were like crackling. Like it was more than a playoff atmosphere.
Right.
I mean, those were fun ass series.
Both teams were good.
Yeah, both teams were pretty good. The Sox had just come off a World Series. AJ hits a home run to win that game. I'm pretty sure I'm right about that.
Yeah,
he said it's the most satisfying home run he's ever hit. He hit it out. I mean, he had a way kind of like Sheets does, where they get their hips moving. He had a pretty decent swing. Sometimes it looked like he was chopping wood, but I mean, just great games, great series. They go back and forth. They're basically 500 in their series. I mean, I think the Sox have a little bit of a lead, but it's basically a 500 series at this point, up to probably below average organizations.
Yeah.
I'm surprised 29 and 20 and 26.
I'm surprised it's not the Field of Dreams game this year. Unbelievable. Speaking of unbelievable, man, the Cubs.
Let's get on
it. We were talking about this earlier through text message, and me, the problem is the back end of the bullpen. I don't trust anybody who's coming in the 8th and 9th inning. I never want to see Michael Fulmer take the mound again unless it's for like the Cardinals. I don't want to see him take the mound again in a Cubs uniform. I'm done with the Michael Fulmer experiment. And to be quite frank with you, I'm starting to become done with the whole Grandpa Rossi experiment. Because I don't like bringing in. He doesn't make the right calls. He doesn't make the right calls. He doesn't steal enough. He's not aggressive. He's not an aggressive manager. And then, he constantly he keeps going back to Michael Fulmer. And it's like, dude, at some point you have to realize that this guy is maybe a 5th or 6th inning type pitcher when your starting pitcher is getting demolished, which might happen here in a couple of weeks when they bring back up, God, I'm gonna forget his name now. Oh God, I always do this.
Hendricks?
So bad with name. Hendricks, yes, there you go.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, go on.
No, it's just frustrating that that back end of the bullpen is the problem. That's what they need to be able to fix this team. But you disagree.
About the bullpen? Well, the bullpen, I disagree about the raw stuff. I think no coach is ever going to look good when their bullpen is bad. I think bullpen, especially in baseball, coach, manager, but any manager in baseball is not going to look good when their bullpen is not good. It's just not because that's where they're making the decision. That's where you see the manager come out. He talks to the starter. He gives him a pat on the butt, and then the reliever comes in. And it's usually his decision in the end of the day. He's obviously talking to his pitching coach if he's unless he's TLR, who just does whatever the fuck he wanted to, including sleep. But Nosferatu's scrotum over there. But if you're a regular manager, you're talking to your pitch, but basically it's your decision too. So that's really where that you first see the manager, where you first see him make a decision. I mean, it used to be in National League where you'd see maybe a double move, maybe you'd see, a couple of other machinations before that, but that is now in this league the first time you see a manager make a move. And if it's the wrong move, you're going to be like, yeah, he's probably not that good. And if you have a bad bullpen, which their bullpen is average to below average, you can have a bullpen that's above average and still blow a lot of games, unfortunately. If in leverage positions, they don't have the bullpen in leverage positions. They have some decent long relievers. They have some good spots, but in leverage positions, they just don't have a good bullpen. Now, like I said before we got on the show, they're resembling the Sox from a month ago or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and it's things are going wrong for this team. And you had said that you feel like the lineup was always going to be a problem.
Well, I always thought the lineup was going to be a problem.
See, I don't think their lineup is a problem, though.
I just think there's too many holes. Like, I always want a lineup that is 7-8 players deep, and I just don't think they have a lineup like that yet. I mean, they could. Morel, I think he's been pretty good. I mean, we're going to probably disagree on that one too. But
he's changing my mind. 8 home runs in 11 games.
That's not going to change my mind. It's just how he's hitting on the home runs, who he's hitting them off of, and what pitches he's hitting off of. I went back and looked at a lot of the highlights, and he's hitting them off various different some good pitchers too, and different pitches, which I always like to see in a hitter if they're hitting off the same pitch. It's or same pitches, like they just hit fastballs. Sometimes I'm like, but
Dansby Swanson.
He has some dexterity there, like we're seeing with Luis Robert, who's having a terrific month. He's probably the best hitter in baseball in May. Not to move over there. I mean, Morel deserves some time. I mean, he's got quite a swing, man, and he's got some bat speed. I mean, that I wasn't ready to see, but right there, that's the first thing I look for in a hitter. Is like I try to scout. I'm actually pretty bad at this, but I try to look, hey, where's their bat speed at? Because that's what matters. If they can't hit a fastball or square up on a fastball, if they're not everybody's going to be Gary, Shelton or God. Now I'm blanking on names. The ex Yankees player, whatever, who could turn around a fastball. Paul Konerko. Probably one of the best fastball hitters I've ever seen, and actually had to learn how to hit other pitches. Not that anybody in baseball really goes for another pitch. Like, there's not a lot of players that go, "Oh, I'm going to hit a slider here."
Right.
Mostly they're looking for fastballs, but Paul Konerko had such a learning curve, which was pretty amazing. But he could always hit a fastball, so you always knew he's going to come around. And I think Morel, he can hit a fastball. He's got some bat speed, man. I don't think that swing's going away.
I don't think that the swing's going away either. I like what I'm seeing from the kid. I want to see him do this over a longer stretch, though. I like not so much the home runs, not the 8 home runs in 11 games. I know that's an anomaly. It's not great. I mean, you just can't sustain that pace, but I want to see him be a spark plug for this lineup. And the reason why I disagree with you with this lineup, not just because the addition of Chris Morel to the lineup, but Nico Horner as a leadoff guy to me is probably one of I'd put him up there with any other leadoff hitter in the league. Dansby Swanson, once he's one of those guys we talked about. I mean, I think he's batting 390 versus fastballs and 102 versus every other pitch.
Yeah.
Like it's really bad with Dansby Swanson. I think he'll turn it around though. I mean, he's such a good hitter that I don't foresee him struggling the way he's been struggling over the last couple of weeks for very long. But Ian Happ,
where does Morel fit best for you? Sorry to cut you off, but
no, for me, I think
defensively.
Defensively,
yeah,
I like him.
Do you want him?
I like him at third.
Yeah,
I like him at third. I really do. Yeah, he can because he can fill in for Bellinger right now, who's on the IL. But once Bellinger comes back, I think he's your everyday third baseman. I'm sick of seeing Nick Madrigal. That's another guy who, I keep seeing Rossi put in this lineup, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, stop putting Nick Madrigal.
How often do you see a trade where it's like, sometimes you'll see a trade where, one team wins it. That's usually what happens. Or you see a trade where both teams are good. You don't see many trades where both were disastrous trades for both teams.
But that's the thing, like you see Nick Madrigal come up in the 9th inning with the game on the line. You have the tying run at second, and you're just screaming at your TV. Why aren't we pinch hitting for this kid?
Well,
why is this guy getting a chance to hit?
A terrific contact hitter before he got hurt with the Sox. I don't know what's going on now, but the trade we're talking about is Nick Madrigal was traded to the Cubs for Cody Hoyer and Craig Kimbrell. The Sox this was 2020?
It was 2021.
2021, the full season. Yeah. And the Sox, it seemed like a good trade for both. They get young players. Cody Hoyer, who still has a lot of talent, he might come through to be a good player for the Cubs, but is languishing in the minor leagues right now. And Madrigal can't hit. Craig Kimbrell ain't even on the Sox.
He's coming back in a couple of weeks. He's still been injured. Hoyer has. This lineup, the other thing with Happ, with Horner, with Swanson, now with Chris Morel, if he keeps it up, Seiya Suzuki's got to find it though. That is a hole that we have there in Seiya Suzuki. But I liked what I've seen from Cody Bellinger. I like this team. I don't know if you know, the Cubs have the second best run differential in the National League.
Oh, no, they've
got the fifth best. They've got the 5th best run differential in all of baseball. It's not the lineup. The lineup, they're scoring runs, they're hitting the ball. The problem is they can't stop the other team later in games. If they don't have, let's say they limit the damage after the 7th inning. If they don't have these blown saves that we've had from Michael Fulmer, if we don't have the games where he comes in and you got a 2-run lead or you're tied and all of a sudden you find yourself down by 2 or 3, if you're not consistently going, if we're not throwing Adbert Alzolay in the 8th inning of a 0-0 game,
he might be your best guy in the bullpen right now, though. Who else are you going to put in? Who's your best bullpen arm right now? Lester or whatever his name is.
There is no good bullpen. That's the problem. That's the problem. The bullpen
committee.
They've got to go out if they're going to really try to contend at all this year for this division. All of a sudden, they've been caught by the Cardinals. The Cardinals, who started out 10-21 in this season, have been 11-6 in their last 17 games and have all of a sudden caught up to the Cubs. And you're looking at a team that the bullpen is just, it is going to be your Achilles heel all season long if you don't go and find something. I don't know if it's down in the minors. I don't know if it's, Cody Hoyer getting healthy. I don't know if it's they had a kid yesterday. I watched him pitch. I liked what I saw from him. I mean, even though it was a 12-3 loss, I liked what I saw of him from the bullpen hitting 101 miles an hour. Out of the bullpen, young kid coming up from AAA, getting a chance to get into a major league game. I like that type of stuff. I would much rather see those guys blow games than to watch another inning of Michael Fulmer. And that's the problem
exactly. And just a bit on Cody Hoyer. Watched him pitch a lot here on the South Side, and he really good pitcher. Has a lot of talent. Reminds me a little bit of Joe Kelly. With the sinkers he can mix in with his slider, a lot of different things he can do with pitches. He also had a changeup at one time with the Sox. I don't know, changeups go on and off with relievers, but really can be, and it can be a future closer. Like really could be.
Yeah.
Has that kind of talent. I'm surprised but that was a guy that I was really pissed that they lost. Madrigal was. I mean, he's basically a guy I thought was going to be a bat guy who was never going to be a good defender, who doesn't hit home runs. So I was like, okay, you can find that in a second baseman off the garbage heap. Elvis Andrews is basically could be that, although Elvis Andrews is great at defense. But whatever.
The Kimbrel trade could have been good for the White Sox, so had they not screwed it up and said, hey, we're going to put Kimbrel in the 8th inning, that doesn't make sense at all. You're taking one of the best closers of all time and putting him into the 8th inning.
Yes, we'll put him in the end.
That's where, and then we're gonna walk a guy with a 1-2 count.
Yes, that'd be not comfortable. And why wouldn't I do that? That's what the numbers say. Or
he'll bring up numbers, and the numbers sometimes weren't even right.
He was like, why wouldn't I do that? I don't know. Maybe because nobody else in the history of baseball has ever done it. What do you mean?
We have Dave Lawrence checking in, just saying my name.
Hey.
You're going to do better than that. Right.
I mean, sometimes, maybe that's what does it for him.
Dave is a Bears fan, so say something about Fields, Dave. Come on. Give us some Bears thoughts. But anyway, I digress. Keep going on Cubs. This is as heated as I've seen you, in a little while.
Because I feel like they're a better team. I feel like this is a team, this is a division that you can go out and you can capture. You have been so bad over the last 2 weeks, and you are, what are they now? 3 games under 500, I think. I'm checking that right now.
Cubs? Are you a Cubs fan?
6 games under 500. Sorry.
Games under 500.
Yeah. So 6 games under 500, and you're only 5 games out of this division.
Yeah, I mean, the Sox are 7 games out. They're 10 games under 500. But about 2 worst divisions in baseball. You can interchange them. We can
by far.
Yeah,
I think the Cardinals are still going to run away with this division like we planned on them doing at the beginning of the season.
I think so too. I think Wilson Contreras is gonna bounce back. I don't believe any of this.
Dude, what have they done with Wilson Contreras over in St. Louis? First, it was, we've got to take him out of the catching role because he's just going to be our everyday DH or an outfielder possibly. Blah blah blah. And then 2 days later, they're like, "Nah, just kidding. We're gonna go back. We're gonna reassess some things. He's still gonna catch for us, blah, blah, blah." Because all of a sudden he turned it on. He turned it on in that Cubs series. I don't know if it was the booze he was getting. He did seem to fuel off of it. Against the Cubs at Wrigley, anytime he would get booed, he seemed to energize, and it's kind of that is why I think guys like him and guys like Javier Baez thrive so much when they were Cubs. That's why I thought that they were so good because those guys thrive off of the moment, and you have so many of those moments in Chicago just because of the fan base. The stadium is always packed. Even if you have a losing team, the stadium is packed. Now, Contreras is going to get more of those moments in St. Louis because they're always a good team. They're a great organization. But I don't know what they've done with Contreras over there. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. So I think the Cardinals are just going to run away with this division. I think Contreras is going to turn it on. I really do. To me, this team is they're much better than the rest of this division. The Brewers aren't very good. the Cubs aren't very good, and the Pirates can't hold up.
It's a winnable division, and if the Cubs win the division this year, I wouldn't be surprised. And at the before when we were setting the year, I said they could be. You were actually lower on the totem pole than me for the Cubs, but I thought the Cubs could hover around 500. There's no reason why they couldn't. They're not this bad. Johnny
Torres,
check it in. Hi, Johnny.
Says, fuck the Redbirds. I agree.
Johnny Torres, also the bad guy in Western movies.
But Johnny, you have to come to reality as a Cubs fan, Johnny. The Cardinals are a model organization in baseball.
They are. They really are. But I read an article the other day, and I meant to mention this. This was not even the other day. This was weeks ago. That some of the people in the Cardinals organization have just aged out. Like you have Dave Duncan. Jose Contreras is greater than Wilkes. Well, that's pretty obvious. I mean, Jose Contreras actually had a really great career, and no one knows how old he is. But yeah, Jose Contreras had one of the best runs ever. Actually, Arrieta beat his run. Jake Arrieta beat his run in 2015 or 16.
Didn't Contreras get caught when he went back, like in Cuba or something? Was it him who was chopping off heads? Which reliever was it?
Chopping off heads. Jose Contreras was a starting pitcher.
Yeah,
for the Chicago White Sox. So, well, he did do some. He did do some stuff. He did do some bullpen stuff at the end of his career, and that was actually an okay closer for the Colorado Rockies for a little bit. But
I could have sworn it was Contreras. But there was a major league pitcher who, after his career, went back to Cuba and was running a cocaine farm and was chopping off heads. Became like El Chapo.
No, he wasn't doing that. Contreras has been back in the U.S. He was even at the Sox spring training like a year ago. And said he felt pretty positive about a team that never did good. But Jose Contreras, I have a story, a South Side story. He comes to the South Side. He throws basically a fork ball. You can call it a splitter, but basically throws a fork ball. It's great the way Steve Stone used to explain it. But when he comes to the South Side, he used to stretch his fingers using like bowling balls or like other big balls. Guess what he stretched his fingers with? He's throwing this. I go to Boston. The only time I've been in Boston, watching a White Sox, actually a pretty good White Sox team in 2004. Probably would have made the playoffs if they had this playoffs. But anyway, they're playing Boston in 2004. That's when Boston wins the World Series. Great game, goes back and forth, whatever. The Sox end up winning by a run, but he's in the bullpen throwing a ball. So he's throwing a 16-inch softball. That's what he used when he came to the South Side. He heard about a 16th-inch softball and started using that to stretch his fingers. But was a great player. I mean, I don't know if something happened with him. Esteban Loaiza, who is Dominican, I believe, he was in a cocaine drug trade.
It was Uget Urbina. Urbina became like
totally wrong.
El Chapo. Look,
you were totally wrong.
No, I wasn't totally wrong. It was a Cuban pitcher. What do you want me to do? I was totally wrong.
What is this by Johnny Torres? Like, what is?
They also are owned by East Side Millionaire.
East Aid
Millionaire. I think he meant East Side. Not owned by an East Side. They're also not owned by an East Side Millionaire. I don't know what that means. I'm confused.
Get back to us, Johnny Torres. Anyway, we did ask Dave to talk about something sports. I like Fields. I just want him to have an offensive line so he can air the ball out and maybe even have a run game. Well, they did have one of the best running games in the sport. But
and I think their wide receiving core is going to make their offensive line look a lot better than what they have been. The fact that you have a run game, plus you have a wide receiving core, I think that it's going to take us some pressure and it's going to make them look a little better than what they did because he's legitimately got 3 wide receivers he can throw to now. And he didn't have that last year.
Yeah, and I didn't mention this last week in Fitzgibberish, and it kind of pissed me off. But what happened to all those like Warren Sapps and ex-GMs and my brother John and Doubting Thomas, who said that they were going to trade Justin Fields, which was an absolute, was ridiculous. They were never going to trade him.
Yeah, I love Justin Fields. I love what they're going to do. I really do. I mean, we talked about it last week. I have the Bears in double digits in wins this year. I do. I think that they were a 7-win team last year, but they only won 3 because they were tanking. I believe that they can be a 10, 11 win team, maybe 12 at, if they have a really great year. I see 12. I do want to see them go out and get an edge rusher. We were talking about this before the show. Doubting Thomas says, I didn't say they would trade Fields. I said they should. God. That's dumb too.
They were never going to this year. The draft was up. They obviously have to build around somebody. Like if you're gonna, and then the one thing you heard on the herd him say it, and you heard other people say it that you can restart the quarterback clock. Well, if he sucks, why not figure it out this season? Make sure. And then you could start another quarterback clock next season when you have 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, Wow. Johnny Torres. Also the bad guy in Western movies. The Bears will be going to the big show. You heard it here first. Please screenshot this chat.
It's on the internet now, Johnny, so it'll always be there. I don't know about Super Bowl, but this team's going to be a lot better than what people think they're going to be. Yeah. It starts week 1 against Green Bay. Dude, if they lose that game, I'm gonna be. I might change my whole overall pick.
The thing is it's football, and you can never say. I remember I was sitting next to my cousin who's passed recently, and after that double doink happened, he's like, they have a good team, they'll be better, and next year, let's wait till next year. This isn't a wait till next year league. No, the NFL is not a wait till next year league. They haven't been back to the they were back to the playoffs and were in and out really quickly, but they weren't really back to the playoffs with a real team since then. And guys get injured, like barring mass injuries. Let's just say they have the average amount of injuries. And Justin Fields stays relatively healthy, plays 13, 14 games. I don't see why they're not in the playoffs this year. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm with you. 110%. I do think that they need to go out and get an edge rusher. They still have $36 million in cap space to go and spend. I think it's like 35.78. So they need to spend about 20 of that. They need to go out and get. I mean, we were talking before the show about the available free agents that they have out there. I do have the list. So for edge rushers,
thumbs up or thumbs down, and we'll argue about it.
So Leonard Floyd.
I'm actually
reunite with Leonard Floyd
just because I like a speed rusher in this defense. I don't know what you think about that.
I like a reuniting, but I like the reuniting with another available edge rusher, and that's Akeem Hicks.
He's still, and he can edge rush. I'm not saying he can't. More of a tackle, though. If he's playing 15, 20, 25 snaps, you know what? I'm down on Akeem Hicks.
I'm down on Akeem Hicks.
There's a couple of reasons. He was a little bit of a problem, had a big mouth, and I don't know how healthy he is. I don't know if he ever got healthy again. He had some back troubles, and when somebody on the line has back troubles, I don't know.
Well, here's one that is interesting too, and this is because this would be a reuniting of a different kind, and this would be a reuniting with the head coach, and that's Yannick Ngakoue out of Indianapolis.
Yeah, I saw him out there. I'm a thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm a thumbs up there too. I like Yannick Ngakoue. I think that he's got a lot of gas left in the tank. I think he's only like 27, 28 years old. He's not very old in NFL years. Jeremiah Murray says he's not an edge rusher. He's a man in the middle. Well, he's listed on this chart on
As an edge rusher, because he does get a
as
lot
an
of
edge rusher.
He does
Yeah.
get a lot of sacks, and he could play the edge if he wanted to. I mean,
Well,
Dan
they have
Hampton,
him listed as a defensive end, not a tackle.
that's weird.
Yeah, so that's just what I'm going off of is just this list.
No, I'm just because I don't know. I've seen the stats. I don't know a lot about him. I'm going to give him a thumbs up just for now, just because he's reuniting with what my dad calls the Ace Hardware repairman. Never was, because he thinks he's just like a normal guy, and like the Bears always get coaches that are just normal guys and not real coaches. But anyway.
So then you've got the other one that I think, and this is one I've been pandering for since the beginning of the offseason, and that's Frank Clark from Kansas City.
Yes. Agreed. Yes. Big thumbs. Probably the best one. The only reason why I like Leonard Floyd is because he can get in pass protection. And in this defense, you do want a guy. But Frank Clark can do that too.
I would put Leonard. Most of these guys, with the exception of the last two we've just named Yannick Ngakoue and Frank Clark, I'd put on 1-year prove-it deals. If you go out and get Frank Clark or Yannick Ngakoue, you've got to do that at a 3-year clip at least.
Yep.
And if you have to give him 13 to 14, maybe even $15 million, I'm not sure what the market value is on an edge rusher. I'm looking it up right now as we speak. I just think that the market value, so $13.7 million. Would you give for Frank Clark $14 million a year? I mean, I would. You've got 36 left to spend. You don't have to spend another dime after getting an edge rusher.
Out of this bunch, I like Frank Clark probably the most out of this bunch, I would say. I've seen him play a lot. I think he's got like he can drop back in pass coverage, and he can play from the edge. I think. Yeah, give me Clark.
I'm the same way with Ngakoue, though.
Look at this kid.
Give me Clark and Floyd. Look, you could go out and spend that, though.
That's a good comment, and then he wants both.
Well, but why couldn't you go and get both? If you go and get both, if you go just slightly above market value, you spend $28 million of your $35 million available. I mean, you still got money available for later on in the season. If you want to make a trade, if you want to pick somebody up, if you want to bring somebody in to help whatever, your offensive line, your defense, say somebody gets hurt, say one of your guys gets hurt, you want to talk JJ Watt into coming out of retirement. You've got money that you can go and spend. So I don't think that give me Clark and Floyd is really such a crazy comment.
You have to get Floyd multi-years.
I would give Floyd a 1-year prove-it deal.
29? Yeah, I don't think.
And I would go under market value. I would probably go about 12, somewhere in between 10 to 12 million for 1 year.
You need a guy. Can the Bears take the NFC North?
Yes.
Yeah, I just don't see
They're
why.
Better than the Vikings. They're better than the Packers.
It's going to be once again one of the worst divisions in football. I mean, if they're in, like I've said before, if they're in the Chiefs division, if they're in Buffalo's, if they're in a lot of these divisions that are pretty tough, I don't think they have. I don't think they're winning those divisions.
Who do you think is their toughest opponent? Who's their toughest?
Detroit
test in this division. It's Detroit.
Detroit has better talent. You could say what you want about the Vikings, but I've never, believed the years when they said that the Vikings were going to be really good. Oh, the Vikings are going. Oh, they're a Super Bowl threat. Oh yeah. I don't believe in the quarterback position for the Vikings. They don't have the defense that they've had in years past. They really don't.
Isn't that why they're better than Detroit, though? Because of the quarterback play? Are you a Jared Goff guy? I'm not a Jared Goff guy.
I'm neither a Jared Goff guy nor not a Jared Goff guy. I think he's, white toast at this point. I mean, he's vanilla ice cream. He's okay. He's not going to be the reason why you win a championship. You're going to need a great defense. And I'm telling you, that defense in Detroit could be a something. I mean, that defense in Detroit has some hard hitters. They did not show it this season because they didn't have the guys up front particularly. They mostly had the more off the ball guys other than Hutchinson. But I think that could be a great defense, a really great defense. But
Next time you use that analogy about Jared Goff, please don't pause before you say toast, because at first I thought you said I like Jared Goff because he's white. That's and like you paused before you said toast. I was like, "Whoa, where's this going? Where are we going with this?"
No, I don't like him. Jeremiah says, "I want an Oompa Loompa now." I think he's.
We already had Andy Dalton.
I think he wants Jeremiah Murray. He just wants what he wants. He wants to have 2 edge rushers in free agency, which I don't see happening, but you never know. I mean, they do still have the money, $35 million. You don't have to spend it all. If you get 2 guys on show me contracts, yeah, probably. Dave Warren has Detroit winning this division, I think.
I think I think Detroit and Chicago are going to be battling it out. I'm not so sure that Detroit is ready. Like it almost seems like they're scared to win sometimes. It really does.
What 2 or 3? What is it? 2 players are suspended for gambling on their team.
5
in the 5.
5.
Okay.
That's who they went. They went and got DeMarcus Walker from Tennessee. So they do have an edge rusher in DeMarcus Walker.
Yes. No, yeah. The Bears, yeah. He could also be a tackle as well. He can kind of go back and forth if they need him to, or be a tackle if they need him to, but they're probably going to put him in on the edge, especially with the 2 rookies that they have. Akeem Hicks kind of interests me a little bit. Just because you bring him into a group that's really young, a tackle group that's really young. I mean, depending on what you know of, you know more about him than almost any team in the league, and probably can give you 15, 20 snaps a day game. It tastes bitter. Nobody says blacken my toast.
I mean, Michelle does with her hot dogs, not with her toast, though.
Oh no, I like a blackened hot dog or even a brat. For that matter.
She always says, she's like, if you're making it, because if like today I made hot dogs and hamburgers on the grill, we had the brother-in-law come over, but I just she's like, oh, can you put
clothes on?
She's the same. He did not the entire time. No, he went shirtless when we started playing bags. It was distracting. I was getting a glare. What's that?
Did you see a C-section scar?
No. His pregnancy stretch marks were covering everything else. I couldn't see anything else.
If nobody knows her Dowling here, look him up on Facebook. It'll look
yeah. You'll see a photo in there if you just go through his photos of him in a Speedo in Jamaica or somewhere where they were vacationing.
How
anyway,
and hanging out of that Speedo, and not that I was cheering for it. I don't know how.
Jeremiah says Fitz sounded like one of the old men Fields detractors out there. I like my quarterback white and in the pocket.
I never said that. I see fucking vanilla ice cream. Horrible quarterback.
I told you screwed yourself when you're like golf is just
what I laughed about Clint Dilfer, for Christ's sake. Remember when everybody was saying Jared Goff? Oh, Jared Goff. Trubisky could be the next Jared Goff. I was like, I sure hope not, because we're seeing the ceiling of Jared Goff right now.
Yeah, we saw the ceiling of Jared Goff for a long time. He was carried by a whole lot of talent in Los Angeles when they went to that Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and they wouldn't have went to that Super Bowl if the Bears didn't hit a double dunk.
I totally agree with that. Just saw an interview with Trubisky where he said, which I won't even. Hi everybody, I'm Mr. Trubisky. I'll tell you what happened. Yeah, we could have won it all. Yeah, but I really think they could. Mitch Trubisky could have just been normal. That Bears defense, in every level, that Bears defense was special in every level.
Yeah,
I mean, we talk about the Philadelphia defense. It was the front 5, 7, whatever you want to call, with the Philadelphia defense this year, and that was a special defense. And not to say that they didn't have anybody, but the Bears defense had it in every level. Eddie Jackson was out of his mind that year.
It was twice in a 12-year span where the Bears defense that was unreal was cost a Super Bowl because of inept quarterback play. I mean, it just is. I mean, when they went to the Super Bowl against Indianapolis, the defense was destroying the Colts in that first half. And then they decided to play prevent defense against Peyton Manning, and then the rest is history.
Yeah. I mean, they're...
Dude, what did they score in that game? 9 points? 10 points?
The
Bears? What was the
Bears?
final score of that game? It was something like 12-10 against the Eagles when the double doink happened.
Oh, yeah. No, it was
bad.
Yeah, it wasn't good. I mean, but Mitch Trubisky was not the reason why they lost that game. Mitch Trubisky actually had one of the better games. He threw for like 250, 300 yards, had a touchdown pass. Like, it wasn't his fault. That was one
and
of the
he did lead that drive to get them into field goal range.
Field goal range. It's a 40-yard field goal. You got to make that. You got to make that.
He did make it the first time. They called the timeout.
The entire organization. I actually sitting here today, and I lost. What was it? Like, it was like $1,300 on that kick.
Oh God!
Because I had them to get to the champion, or no, I had them to win a playoff game. I had them to win the division. I had them to make the championship game. No, I had them to make it to the Super Bowl as well. And all those were like long bets. If you remember the team they had in 2017, long bets. And yeah, it was like $1,200 I would have won. So I lost, but now I'm glad it happened.
You want to know who to blame for that?
Pace is gone. They'd still be here right now.
Do you want to know who to blame for that? You can blame my ex-wife for that. Here's why. Here's why. We were sitting in my living room in Vermont.
Oh,
and she never really like watched, like she liked football, but she was never like a football, like she just sat down and just understood the game, right? So we're watching the game and he makes the first field goal, but they called the timeout right before the kick. And she goes, why didn't that count? And I said, because I called the timeout. And she goes, well, what happens if he misses the second one? Yes. I just looked at her and I said, why would you say that? And then I said, don't say anything else. And then they snapped the ball and it hits the first upright, hits the second one. And I was like, I didn't talk to her for like a day and a half after that. I'm just
saying, if she's at the top of the stairs.
Well, she's pregnant now with her new husband, so that would be like double murder.
How about that? Johnny Torres for a long pause. She's at the top of the stairs.
It's nothing else needed. But yes, that's who I blame for the Bears' loss in that season. Are we ready for Fitz gibberish?
Oh man, already?
Let's do you know we've been on for 45 minutes already? 42.
All right, here we go. Hello, my friends. It's another edition of Fitz Gibberish. It's a diatribe conspiracy. An island in the middle of unapologetic and sometimes inaccurate sports talk. It's a special edition of Fitz Gibberish this week. I didn't have the time to do a sounder, but it is a movie review, Fitz Gibberish. My wife and I watched Air this past week. The new flick with Ben Affleck and his ex-wife, Matt Damon. But the movie follows Damon's Vicario around, his character. Sonny Vicario is actually played admirably by Matt Damon, a fat Matt Damon, I will say. And we do actually have a picture of his fat bottom. There we go. And I think we might have another one. Or we can, yes, there's Matt Damon. Kind of chubby.
Pudgy. He looks like he went on my diet.
Yes. He's eating some beef sandwiches with jardiniere and a lot of pizza. So, but anyway, I digress. The movie follows Damon's Vaccaro around as he is told not to do one thing after the other, but does it anyway. Basically, it's like watching my 5-year-old while my wife went away for 3 days last week. Instead, it was a brisk 2 hours set to entertaining 80s music and not 80 hours of don't touch that. Yes, elephants pee more than daddy. And it's 9:30 at night. We aren't playing superheroes. Go to fucking bed, you little gremlin.
Elephants pee more than daddy.
That was his question. The elephants pee more than daddy. Can you believe this?
Oh, God.
Anyways, I'm not a movie critic. Well, if that's pee more than daddy. Yes. I'm not a movie critic, but the movie was very good to even great at times. It even butts up against classic in various scenes. Damon Affleck being effective while Viola Davis, Chris Tucker, if you remember him, the old stand-up and Friday star, was terrific in it, and even Jason Bateman taking terrific turns. After being taken away by the brisk momentum of the movie and coming away with mostly good things to say, I was struck by something the movie only alludes to, and this is the character that Matt Damon played, Sonny Vaccaro, is actually a real-life person, talking about Michael Jordan being on Saturday Night Live.
He was ready, and he never did it again. But that was a pretty damn good thing for a kid. And Saturday Night Live in the '90s, that was a big show, man. I mean, you got on that. So what I'm saying is, Michael opened the door for athletes to be involved and make lots and lots of money by shoe endorsement. Right then, before Michael, they controlled it. None of those guys, Magic and Larry and Dr. J, none of them got more than $100,000. Now, that was 1984. But why would anybody give anybody a piece of something?
I would have had a picture of Sonny Vaccaro, but he looks like a turtle and he's 83. But what shouldn't just be alluded to is we're talking about a country on the cusp of a full-on sports explosion in 1984. If you bought an American sports team in the early 80s, you are going to cash in now. And then if you're a Chicago sports owner, you're saying that you don't make enough money on your Chicago sports team. Jerry Reinsdorf, looking at you. But I digress. Half the people in America are like Englishmen who beat their wife because Manchester United lost. And it's okay with everyone. I do understand that I'm a host of a sports show who has ripped a book in half because the Sox shortstop dropped a pop-up with the bases loaded. D'Angelo Jimenez, 2004. They were in a freaking pennant race and should be the last person to tell people to settle down. But pump the brakes, America. It's only a game. It's spilling over into politics where they treat Trump like he's Dale Earnhardt Jr. or Senior. You could be a Trump voter and fan. I don't give a shit. But if you treat your candidate like they're your starting shortstop, you're going to be let down. I thought the Sox were going to win 90 games this year. They're 19-29. What the hell? Let's
Still
stop.
possible.
Let's stop treating our entire lives like it's a sport. And that's Fitzgibberish, my friends. I pass it over to Combs. Maybe for a comment. I don't know. My thought is I just think sports gets a little bit gets put into every part of our life a little bit too much. And that's kind of what this movie kind of alluded to, because that's after 1984. I mean, sports just explodes. I mean, John Madden used to say that the 1985 Bears, basically after that, like the sport just exploded in football. And
yeah, and I agree. I mean, look, sports is every part of my life.
I know that. I was wondering how you would react to this, but we'll see.
I come home from work. I sit down. I throw on ESPN. I throw on whatever game's on. I watch sports. I eat and breathe. Like Michelle will tell me all the time, can we just watch something else? And and I most of the time I give in and I'll watch something different with but for me, if you're not doing anything and I'm just sitting here and I'm flipping through the channels, it's going to land on a sports channel. It's just that's where I'm gonna go. I don't care what it is. I'll watch tennis, I'll watch golf, I'll watch any of it. But I don't think that there are very many people that are like that. I listen to a lot of sports talk radio, and even those guys, when they're not talking sports, like they'll watch the games that they need to because they're going to be talking about them tomorrow.
Exactly, yeah.
But other than that, they try to detach from sports when they're not working. And maybe that's why they're so dumb when they're on the radio. I don't know. But I don't know. I don't subscribe to the fact that they're too much. I do subscribe to the fact though, like when you said that, the fact that he had the ability and was great on Saturday Night Live, that was something always about Michael Jordan. He always had that I'll do it attitude. That the people say all the time, and I've heard it said by plenty of people, and it was the I can't remember what Coach Wooden said. It's not the fact that Michael Jordan hit that shot as a freshman in North Carolina. It's the fact that he had the balls to take that shot as a freshman in North Carolina.
And wanted that shot. And who was his teammate on the team? God, I can't remember. But he wanted that shot. And that's part of the movie. Like that is true. But I think we're a man of time. I think all of us are. Like, fucking Bill Gates doesn't become Bill Gates if he's not by the high school where they have programming, the only programming in the country for a high school team where you could program computers. Like you don't become Steve Jobs if you don't live in Palo Alto. I ain't talking shit about Jason Bourne. They are pretty close to Ben Affleck. That's all I'm saying. Dave Lauren checks in.
Damn, we both hit it at the same time.
Daddy, do elephants drink whiskey?
I love it.
Daddy, stop.
Johnny Torres says, I would never hit a fur male. I think he meant female. But I will push her down the stairs. So I don't.
If we were making any money off this podcast, we'd be
no way. I hear the stuff that they say on the radio nowadays. There's no dude. They were talking about on ESPN 1000 this week. I was listening to one of the shows on Friday morning, and they were talking about how one of the guys was watching his son run a marathon, but was sitting next to his ex-wife, and how his ex-wife came and asked him, "Why did we get divorced?" And then it became this whole thing about whether or not who was riding who and all this other stuff. Like it was pretty. It got pretty good. So, but yeah, no, we wouldn't be demonetized by any.
Stay on the same, just to get back on the subject. I just think we're like a sports culture now. Like it's like your team against my team. You're here, you're there, I'm here. Like I think sports feeds into that a little bit. I think you can blame sports a little bit on that.
But how is that not like? To me, that's the best part. Like, if I say, hey, Ryan, let's, Cubs are playing the Sox today. Let's go watch this at Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go to a bar. Let's go check this game out. It's fun, right? No, like, it's not fun like these idiots going out to the ball field and fighting over their team. But it's fun to give each other shit. It's fun to talk. So, like, that is, like, to me, I don't know. To me, instead of saying, like, as far as too much sport in our lives, sports brings people together. Like,
and I agree with all that. When we were kids, sports was the periphery.
Yes,
it wasn't the main focus, which I think it's just become more that.
See, it was for me though,
at least lately, and I think. It's not Michael Jordan's. Like I said, it was the time. Yeah. Like it was always going to be somebody, and Michael Jordan just fit every single and like like Vaccaro says, he fit every single. It wasn't just basketball. It was that he could do the SNL thing. He was okay, I guess, in business, but
Yeah.
he was that person that kind of embodied, America at the time and moving forward, like just the way we are. We're insane workers. We are actually. I mean, I think a lot of people say that millennials can't work, which
I was sick as a kid. Like, and this maybe goes to something like maybe towards my sports addiction, but if I wasn't going to be home for a Cubs game, I would record it. Because back then, I mean, you didn't have cell phones. You didn't have anybody. Because the only way to find out the score of the game would have to be looking at the newspaper the next morning, right? Yeah. So I would record the game and then I would watch it on videotape. And a lot of times I would pause it. My mom walked into my room a couple of times, and I'm watching it, and I'm actually trying to become. I'm watching it with the TV with the volume down, because I'm doing my own announcing.
Oh yeah, I've done that before. Yeah,
and it was just like that was just.
Yeah,
it was just me. Like my day with my friends. If the Cubs were playing a day game, I would play from 9 o'clock in the morning until 1 o'clock. And then from 1:20 till 5 o'clock, I was watching the Cubs game. And then at 5 o'clock until the lights went out and I needed to be back home, I'd be out with my friends. Like, it's just my life has always been that way. So, like, I don't think I'd ever say anything about too much sports. But I do get the premise. I really do.
No, I actually I think you get it a little bit, but I thought I was going to get a little bit more pushback from you. You're probably going to push back a little bit more when I say this, but I do think that we're a team culture now. We are. It's your team or my team, and I think sports does feed into that. Like, the popularity of sports from when we were born has completely exploded. Like, not a lot of people talked about sports back, like, exploded. Look at the Sox. They were bought for $20 million. And we have an owner where the team is worth $2.1 billion, who likes to tell people that he loses $30 million a year. Like, are you kidding me?
Has the popularity in sports exploded, or has the money in sports exploded?
Well, doesn't that come hand in hand?
No, it doesn't. It's just because, like, I mean, look, a gallon of milk now is way more expensive than it was in the 1920s. However, if you look at video from Babe Ruth and all them playing, you still see full stadiums, but the stadiums now. Well, right, but the stadiums are also bigger than they used to be. They seat more people than they used to be. I mean, the refreshments and everything are 10 times more than they used to be.
TV numbers for Super Bowl III are way bigger now.
Well, because if you look at Super Bowl III, how many people were able to own a television set back then?
Okay, let's go to Super Bowl 20.
Okay. I mean
that's the Bears Super Bowl. For anybody on this who's listening, no one's listening that doesn't know that. But for anybody listening, that's the Bears Super Bowl. I mean, that's when John Madden said that NFL football, that's one of his favorite years of NFL football. He said that many times, and he said that was the turning point in NFL football. And
you know the highest rated Super Bowl? You know what that is?
I don't know. Hit me with it.
Super Bowl 14.
Did everybody like that pause? That was
Super Bowl 14. Pause. That was you're in shock pause, right?
That's not true.
I'm looking at it right now.
Per cap, what are you looking at? What are you looking at on Sports Mockery?
The 1982 game remains the highest rated Super Bowl broadcast. It earned a 49.1 per household rating. Viewership peaked in 2015 with 114 million people. But the highest rated per household Super Bowl is Super Bowl 14.
Interesting. I've thought about this too. Like, there was a Super Bowl. I had to go out and get something for one Super Bowl. from my wife and family. Was not happy about it, but it was during play, and like the freaking grocery store was packed, and I was like, yeah, no one really cares that much about sports, but still, I think per capita more people like it. Jeremiah is on your side. I'm guessing you guys text back and forth during the week, and probably give each other retry.
But no, there are people like
The
you.
amount of people in Central India, Deanna, that pay no attention to sports is mind numbing. I think you guys are just looking through the Chicago lens.
I think if you went out and you've been talking about, like the man on the street type thing where you want to go out there and talk to people out there.
A Sox game. We're going to go to a Cubs game. Me and you are going to go to a Cubs game. I'm going to a Sox game with a buddy.
But if you went downtown and did it, I bet you would have a vast majority of people that wouldn't know the answer to a sports question than you would have people that would know the answer to a sports question. Because I don't think people pay as much attention to sports as you think. Now, look, when you're talking about all these people that are rabid about football, all these people that are rabid about baseball, I know that guys like me, guys like you who really love sports, I know that we are few and far between, which is why
you called down the thunder, sir.
Which is why. What?
No, I know you're on a tangent, but that's a deal. I will go on downtown, and we will see it. People know Sox games, but keep going. I know you were on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, what I'm saying is that I just think that the people like us, we are a dime a dozen, which is why it's such a hard market to break into via like this, like a radio show or a podcast, or why, if you listen to radio stations like ESPN 1000, ESPN Chicago, it's a big sports city. They've only got 4 local shows. The rest are all national shows.
Yeah, well, the Score has a lot of local shows, and the Score was a 24-hour sports station that was never.
The Score has 6.
It was never, but it was never supposed to. They have weekend shows too.
No, they play a lot of replays on the weekends.
Well, yeah, they do play some replays, but they do have baseball shows. They have football shows. They have other shows on the week, hockey shows even on weekend. What's his name? I forget, but they do have a lot of shows on the weekends. They do have a 24-hour sports network, basically for Chicago, and no one thought that would ever work. So it is working.
Just saying.
Yeah, we'd be better than some there, I think. But I just think it's a worthy conversation to have. I do think there's more sports fans per capita now. I could be totally wrong. You and Jeremiah could be right, but I just see the way people act. I just think it's a little different now.
He says, I'll say that's why I have no friends down here. Yeah, that's what I'll go with. I love it.
Jeremiah, you're coming on the show soon.
So we were talking and you sent me a clip of Tim Anderson.
Yes, the Tim Anderson clip.
Let's talk about that real quick, because I have something for this idiot announcer here.
Okay, let's get the wait. Do you want to see the play first?
Let's see the play first, and then let's hear what the announcer had to say.
Okay, let's bring it up. You can talk while I'm bringing it up,
because I have something for both things. I have something for the play.
Bases loaded.
Yep. I have something for that, and I have something for what he says, because when you watch the play, I will explain to you most likely what happens during this play, because I've seen it. I've done it. I've watched people do it, and it happens more often than a lot of people think. So when you watch this play here coming up for Tim Anderson,
I'm not gonna totally see it. Just zoom in. But oh no, I can.
There you go.
There we go.
Run scores. He's going to get him at the plate if he fields it cleanly.
So when you watch that play, watch Tim Anderson as that. If you can rewind that and go back, but watch Tim Anderson because as the ball's about to go into his glove, he's turning in position to throw it. So what happened was he was trying to throw the ball before he caught the ball. He was trying to make a play before he had the ball. And that is a common mistake. Now, this one happened during a very precarious time in the game. This cost the White Sox a win. But this is a play that happens over and over and over again in Major League Baseball. And it's fine if you can't get it. We can play the audio because the way the Indians announcer, obviously away broadcast, and he does say a lot of things. He's very a vocal guy. He's talked plenty about Trevor Bauer and his feelings on Trevor Bauer. And he's also willing to bash the other team, which he does here.
But yeah, I see that that's a common play, but I don't know. Even Ozzie Guillen, let's see if we can get the audio here going. I think we can.
Maybe you can do it. I can't hear it. Can you?
You should hear
it. Anyway, basically what he does is he says Tim Anderson isn't a very good
shortstop with the infield line. He should have made the play.
Right. The notion that Tim Anderson is not a very good shortstop boggles my mind because
true. He does have a lot of errors per season. He has about 20 errors, but a lot of shortstops have 20 errors per season.
He had those in his early years. Since 2018 or 2019, he had 6 in 2020, but that was a shortened season. He had 10 in 21. He had 12 in 22. And so far this year, he has 4. However, he had 10 in 20 or 12 in 22. The guy who won the Gold Glove had 19 errors that year. Yep. Jeremy Pena had 19 errors that year.
21 was probably his best year defensively, and he just gets to here is what you don't see with errors and where you don't see something in stats. Like I used to talk to a statistician all the time that said stats are like bikinis.
I know where you're going with this.
They show you, they'll show you some of the good stuff, but they'll show you something, but they cover up all the good stuff. They sometimes stats do. And with these stats in particular, he gets to more balls than probably the top, and he's probably top 5 in the balls he gets to. There was also an Alexi Ramirez, a shortstop with the Sox, who got to more balls than anybody. He lost the Gold Glove to I forgot the guy but he got to like 200 more balls than the guy that he lost to.
There was and I love this argument because I agree with you because a lot of his errors are usually made on balls that no other player would have gotten to anyway. And he's trying to make a play happen. And there was one player in the history of baseball that not the history, but one player that I've seen in my lifetime that this nomenclature of he wasn't a very good defensive shortstop stuck with him because of this reason per se, and that was Nomar Garciaparra. Nomar Garciaparra was the best of the big 3 shortstops in the late 90s, early 2000s. He was better than Jeter. He was better than A-Rod at shortstop.
Derek Jeter was the guy that Alexi Ramirez lost to. Derek Jeter got to like 320 balls. This is like 2007, but whatever. Let keep going.
Derek Jeter is the most overrated shortstop in the history of baseball. I said it. Yes, but Nomar Garciaparra, quite possibly, had he not been injured, could have possibly been in the argument with Barry Bonds and Babe Ruth as the greatest players of all time. This guy's batting average was trajecting higher and higher and higher every year. I think his first year he hit 307, then he hit like 330, then he hit 347, then he hit 360, then he hit 376, and then the hip injury and the back injury and all these other injuries, and then all of a sudden his career just flames out.
Are you relitigating the Cubs?
No. He Nomar Garciaparra got to so many balls that other guys wouldn't get to. The reason why Derek Jeter was winning Gold Gloves, and the reason why Derek Jeter is thought of as one of the greatest shortstops of all time, because he doesn't lay out for balls.
No.
He doesn't get to balls that other guys can't get to.
That bears out in the stats. Like I said, Alexi Ramirez had a much better year than him. He just had more errors because he got to like 200 more balls than Derek Jeter. Come on. I mean,
Jim Edmonds made highlight reels by taking horrible routes to balls. That's true. I love Jimmy Edmonds, but that's true.
So did Aaron Rowan, who I love. Aaron Rowan, great player, but did not.
Who cares, Doubting Thomas? Who cares as he changes
his, the wrong tree there.
He changed his picture to Jason Bourne looking through a scope. He's coming at you.
Unbelievable. He's coming after me because I said he was Ben Affleck's ex-wife.
Or maybe because you called him fat.
I didn't.
You were fat shaming. You were fat shaming him.
Yeah, I was fat shaming him, but he did look a little fat. I mean,
I look a little fat. I look a lot fat, actually.
Well, maybe we could talk about it after the show.
Maybe.
I'm running.
You're gonna be my personal trainer.
I don't know if he's like that or not. I don't know.
Scotch and smokes is that the deal?
Yeah.
Is that the key to losing weight?
Hey, have some cigarettes. That'll be
So we talked Cubs, we talked Sox, we talked Bears. We got one more thing I want to talk about before we get out of here, and this is going to be another argument we're going to have. The Florida Panthers are the 8th seed. And the reason why I love this story is personal, because I love this story because I'm going to win money off of it. I got in this random draw little bracket thing, and I ended up randomly drawing the Panthers, who I thought I was drawing dead when they were heading into the series against the greatest team ever assembled in NHL hockey, the Boston Bruins. But they upset them. They upset Toronto, and now they're up 2-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals as the 8th seed. They were the very last team to clinch a playoff spot. I think the NHL playoffs are the best playoffs in all of pro sports. From beginning to end, it's nothing but action. All these overtime games. I mean, to me, there is no better playoff sport. And not only just the excitement of the games, but the fact that 8 seeds, the worst seed in the tournament, has a chance every single season if they get a hot goaltender or they start playing the right hockey at the right time. They have a chance to beat anybody. And the best team who wins the President's Trophy typically finds a way to lose in the first or second round of the playoffs. Like, I don't know how there is a more exciting playoff in any major sport. I'm pretty sure you're probably going to say NFL here.
No,
I get it, but it's not. There is nothing that compares to hockey playoffs. Period.
Shut up.
I still don't know what suck my kiss means. I've been trying to figure it out for 25, 30 years. But anyway, here's the thing with hockey, and I'm almost in agreement with you, but I'm not. It's because of what you said. I remember when the Blackhawks were facing the Nashville, whatever the fuck, Predators, back in the early teens to early 10s, 2010. That 2010 series is a great series. What a great series! There isn't many playoff series that are better than that series. That was the series they had to get by to win the Stanley Cup, actually, even though they had 2 or 3 series after that, maybe 2, 3 after freaking Kane named Luongo his bitch.
The 94 series between the Devils and Rangers was pretty damn epic too. The Devils forced Game 7 with 3.2 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah. I just don't think the game was as wide open then. Now that the game, they wide open the game, made for more line passing, whatever. I'm not going to get too into it because I don't know that much. But the only thing with hockey is at that time, the Hawks were second seed. I think the Sharks were ahead of them, or whoever the fuck. And the Nashville Predators were seventh seed in that season. And they said then there was 52% of the time the second seed won. That's the only that's not the only problem I have. I have a couple other problems just because there's a lot of goes to chance in hockey, too much to where I ever put their playoffs against another sport. And that's just basically the sport. I don't think there's anything they can do about that.
Doubting Thomas is drunk.
This is America. You can do whatever you want. Fly 666 ... parentheses. Or is that brackets? Bracket. But anyway, it's just too much is to chance for me in hockey. It's just too much. And I think the best team, if you're just saying playoffs is for the best, I think there's a lot of metrics you can have, but if you're just saying it's the best team, I think the best team wins in NBA more than in any other sport in the playoffs. I think in the NFL, too often the best team doesn't win. That's why in the NFL, and just the NFL is just so messy. It's basketball with traveling. I give baseball it, man. I really do. And with a 7-game series, I think most of the time the best team wins. And at the same time, there's still so many variables that hockey brings in. And I think a good baseball series has so much athleticism and intellectualism, and intellectualism isn't even a word. And it just has so much going for it that I that's why I think it was America's pastime. It isn't anymore, but I'll take it.
As you say, the top team always wins in basketball. I'm watching the Miami Heat right now, who are up 51-33, and they have a 2-0 lead on the Boston Celtics. And they were a play-in team, and the Lakers were a 7 seed too, and they're still in it.
I understand that, but both those teams in basketball, if you have one player that's really good, you can make it that far. And Miami came on, and the Lakers came on late in the season. They were much better second half teams.
Jeremiah Murray, do that hockey. I love it. But I don't know. I disagree. I love baseball. You know me. Baseball is my passion. That the 2016 World Series, even if it wasn't the Cubs that had won that World Series, was just such a fantastic series to watch. Even the very next season, the Dodgers and Astros, didn't 5 of the 7 games go to extra innings in that World Series?
Yeah.
It was so good. And I love every second of it, right? But the NHL, each series is a 7-game series. There's no watering it down. There's no, win a short 3-game series, then win a short 5-game series, then win a 7-game series before getting to the World Series. It's all 7-game series. The overtime, the next person to score wins, the excitement between that, the back and forth from the jump from the time that the puck is dropped in the first period until the time that final puck is scored, whether it's in overtime or whether the clock runs out in the third period in these games, you're never out of it. You very rarely do you see a blowout in a Stanley Cup game or in an NHL playoff game.
See a blowout in soccer. I mean, hockey.
You see blowouts in hockey all the time.
2-0 blowout, 3-0.
No,
blowout.
stop.
I watched a lot of hockey, probably more than I wanted to, but I watched a lot of hockey, and there was a lot of games that the Hawks lost that were because of a tumbling puck. And I know that happens in a lot of sports, but it was just too much in hockey for me to say that that's the best playoffs. Although I will say this, from the difference in game play that you see from regular season to playoffs, I will give you that hockey has that, because you can only give so much in regular season. You got 80 games and you're playing fucking hockey. I don't even know how they play 80 games. That's insane. But 82, don't they play? Whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Anyway, but in playoff hockey that's what you're seeing. I don't know, that they are so much better. The play is so much better in playoff hockey than in any other sport. Like it is step above for sure. Guys are flying around. It's insane. It's a totally different game in playoff hockey than it is in regular season.
I agree. I agree. I mean, you look at games like earlier in these playoffs in the first round when you were playing the Panthers playing the Bruins, it was heading into the third period. It was a 3-2 hockey game. 7 goals got scored in the third period, and the final score was 7-5. Like it was just back and forth. The Bruins came back, took the lead. Then the Panthers came back and answered and took the lead. And it was just back and forth, back and forth. And you see that more often in hockey than you do in any other sport. Hockey, and Doubting Thomas agrees with me. It's my guy. Doubting Thomas says Combs is right.
No, this isn't
hockey
even.
Playoffs are the best of all sports.
Well, look, can we look at his last comment? So this is who you're listening to here. This is who you're listening to here.
Did their kid maybe steal the phone?
I'm just saying,
or computer.
It's possible, but I think he's saying this just to agree with you.
Jeremiah says we can all agree it's the hardest sport to be a play-by-play guy.
You damn
yeah.
Right. What's his name? The guy who does the radio play-by-play for the Hawks. Best I've ever heard. At any sport.
She's a fan of the program too. But are you talking about Pat Foley?
No.
Pat Foley was the best to ever do it.
The radio side.
I don't know his name.
If you listened to his radio call, which hockey's almost impossible to listen to a radio call for.
No, it's not. Stop it.
It is almost impossible. The best radio call, the best sport to listen on the radio, which is the best sport to watch in person. It's baseball. Baseball on the radio is the best. Like the sound, the rhythms. Like you can.
You're talking about Chris Bowden?
Maybe
He's the current.
I'd have to hear him. And his announcing was unbelievable. Like you knew exactly what was happening in a hockey game, mind you. He would even be calling the lines coming in and out. Like it was insane. He was great. Maybe it is Chris Bowden. Chris Bowden.
Yeah.
Thumbs up. You get the thumbs up. You get the Leonard Floyd thumbs up. They're not going to get Leonard Floyd, are they?
No, they're not getting Leonard Floyd. I do think that they're going to end up with either Yannick Ngakoue or
I'm fine
Frank
with
Clark. I'm fine with either one of them. I will be equally as happy whether you end up with Ngakoue or Clark. Clark, I looked him up. Clark is 28. Ngakoue is 29. I would be equally happy with either one of them. I think Ngakoue is a phenomenal defensive end. And I think he is familiar with the defense that the Chicago Bears are going to be playing. So I would almost favor that one, but I would be okay with either Frank Clark or Ngakoue. Got to end up with one of them, though. You've got to end up with a good edge rusher.
Yeah,
you've got too much money to spend, and there's too big of an off season for you to come out of it empty-handed.
And I think where you were going, you know what? Frank Clark could be a multi-year guy, and you might just be like, "Fuck."
Ngakoue is too. Ngakoue and Clark are both going to be a 3 to 4 year type deal. You're going to have to give it to them, but that's
tough
fine.
To do when you have you do have a QB contract to maybe sign. I mean, maybe you're thinking of that too.
You do.
A couple of years. So maybe Leonard Floyd, if you can get him for 1 year, is fine. I miss Ed Farmer cussing away from the mic during
So let me ask you, if you had, and I don't want to put like Hall of Famers out there, right? Because obviously Vin Scully is Vin Scully, and listening to a guy like that is just, I mean, it's pure magic.
Yeah, loved it.
But do you like the announcers that are very intelligent about the games that they're calling, or do you like the announcers who know enough and just kind of make you laugh during the broadcast?
It's a good question. It depends on the sport. No, it doesn't.
Well, let's go baseball.
I like information. Well, in baseball, I like information more.
Yeah.
I don't even care if it's a fucking robot.
I'm the same way.
I want somebody who's smart, who can talk about the game that is happening in front of them. Totally, other than entertain me. Yeah, entertainment's good. It's got to be a part of the broadcast. Yeah, it has to be in there. But Steve Stone is the most monotone person in the world, and he makes me laugh.
But he's great.
He's terrific. He's terrific. And to even if you listen to the even though I think Len Casper, I've never really liked him, but I see he's a good broadcaster.
He is.
You know, but I never really liked him, but he does okay. But if you listen to the radio side of the Sox broadcast and the freaking TV side,
I didn't like him with Jim Deshaies. I didn't like Len and JD. I don't like JD at all. I think JD tries to be smarter than what he is. But I do love guys like I love Busciambi when he's in the broadcast booth with like a guy like Ryan Dempster or even Rick Sutcliffe.
Like
they talk baseball. Like in they're entertaining because like I love listening to Ryan Dempster. Hey, why did he decide to go curveball there instead of fastball? What was he thinking in that moment? Yeah. And listening to the explanation of a guy who played the game before, to me, is way more fun than listening to Jim Deshaies come up with some stupid dad joke or some pun. Yeah. And think that he's funny. I like the guys. Like, don't get me wrong. I loved Harry Carey. Okay, he was entertaining. I loved Hawk Harrelson. He was also entertaining. But I would have much rather I would turn off the sound on the TV to listen to Cub radio broadcasts. To listen to guys like Ron Santo who talked about the game and who were passionate about the game.
There was a time where it was Steve Stone and Ed Farmer. So Ed Farmer was the radio side of the Sox broadcast for like 20 years. Great guy, died recently. But it was Ed Farmer, base pitcher, and Steve Stone. When Steve Stone got kicked out of the Cubs because, I don't know, he's critical of the Cubs, but whatever. And it was a great broadcast. And you're right. I would turn down the TV to listen to their broadcast. And Steve Stone ended up going to TV because they didn't want two pitchers doing the broadcast. I don't know. It was a great broadcast. And it was for a year and a half, I think. And it was terrific.
They do a great job now. The Sox TV broadcast, I think, because the Cubs still have JD on their call.
Yeah.
I like the Sox TV broadcast team the best in the city. I really do. I think that it's a phenomenon because they do that. Yes, they do some comedy. Yes, they banter back and forth with one another, but they talk about the game. And Steve Stone's about as honest as they come. Like, I mean, the guy told Lance Lynn to eat a salad.
Yeah,
I mean, like he's about as honest as they come, and I love that.
And then his wife has him eating a salad.
Yeah, that was savage.
They do have a savage salad. And Lance Lynn, 6 innings, 2 runs today. Had 1 run, 7 innings the week before, the start before.
Are you excited about the sweep versus Kansas City?
No.
I'm not either.
I told you I don't much care. When you're 10 games or more under 500, you have to show me something.
You got to go out. You got to sweep, or at least win 2 out of 3 here against Cleveland now, right?
You have to
maybe get you excited.
You have to start sweeping. You have to start sweeping teams, man. You have to start winning games. You have to start doing something. You exceptionally lost and was terrible. Exceptionally. So you have to exceptionally win for me to see something. Now there is things happening in this team. There is. You got Luis Robert, best player in MLB from May 1 on. And there really isn't much argument there. I mean, you might, say a couple other players, but best player in MLB since May 1. You got Jake Berger, who's absolutely raking. The guy can hit from multiple angles in the strike zone, multiple angles, which is always something I look for. There is something happening, and they could be, a little above mediocre until the end of the year, but that still leaves you 10 games under 500.
So they've got a 13-game stretch here where they play Cleveland, Detroit, the Angels, and then Detroit again. What do they have to go in that stretch for you to be happy or maybe even excited about, hey, maybe they're turning it around? They got to be 10-3?
I was thinking about this today. If you have, let's say, they win the next 5 series and they don't sweep any of the series, they're 10-5. They're still 5 games under 500.
Yep.
And they're 15 games ahead. You need to be at least 500 by the All-Star break.
You should sweep Detroit twice.
I don't know.
You have to do that, right?
Detroit has a good team. They have a pretty good team. I mean, they're playing all right. They're in second place in the division. They have some dynamic players. To sweep them twice is going to be pretty hard. That would be pretty impressive. But you can't just win series. That's the problem with them dropping all those games. The math just doesn't work out anymore. It doesn't for them. You're 10 games under 500. I mean, I've even take 6 games under 500. If you have 2 or 3 games go differently, like I'm in. I'm, sitting here going, blah, 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 blah. And that's how crazy sports are, especially in a 162 game season where I'm sitting here going, no, they have a chance, but they didn't. They're 10 game under 500. And they had to do a lot to get to 10 games under 500. Like I think their rotation is where it should be. I actually think their lineup is starting to, line up to where it should be, but there's no way this team overcomes 10 games under 500.
So in that series, that first 4-game series against Detroit, they have Giolito, Lynn, and Cease in 3 of those 4 games. You have to win that series. If you don't sweep, you've got to win that series.
Yes, you do. And Kopech after that, and Kopech was about as close as you can get to a perfect game without getting it the other night.
Yeah.
On Friday night, was just terrific. He's got to have the best fastball in the game. I mean, I'd be, and that's when I was saying earlier in the season, like I just want to see him pitch. I want his pitches to be pitched well, but now he's starting to pitch strikes, which is good.
Kopech's dad tweeted out after that game, and he said, "Where are all the people at that were saying Kopech was done?"
Oh, no one ever said that.
And so I commented on it, and I said, "It was the Kansas City Royals." Let's calm down and see if he can stretch this out. I want to see him do it over a stretch. It was the Kansas City Royals. He had a great game. I'm not taking that away from him. But it's not like you're going up against the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Tampa Bay Rays or any of these other elite AL East teams. It was the Kansas City Royals. Let's take a step back, because you can't be bad for as long as Michael Kopech has been bad and then have one good game and be like, we're all the doubters now. It's just not how it works.
He had a pretty good year last year. He was never going to pitch 200 innings last year. It was never coming off of Tommy John, a year and a half before that. He was never going to. He had a decent year last year for what he came off of. And this is the best stuff he's ever had. This is the best stuff he's had since he first came up and was pitching like 103 miles an hour or whatever he was. I disagree with you there, because I think it's all coming together for him. I really do. And I would not say this about a lot of pitchers, and I don't know much about the kid. Yeah. But I think this is the game where maybe it does turn around. And you're right, it is.
I just pulled up the tweet because I see Jeremiah said, had Kopech ever started, how can he be done? So this was the exact tweet from Michael P. Kopech, the father of Mike
Can
Kopech.
we show this tweet? Can you share this?
Yeah, let me go ahead and share it. Here we go. Because it actually has my response right on it. Present.
You don't have to say what you're actually doing when you're doing it. You don't have to actually. That's that background. That's our production staff. Our production staff is working on getting you
Shut
the
up,
Twitter
stupid.
response.
All right, so can you see it now? I can't see what we're looking like on StreamYard.
I can see it.
All right, so it says, so all you idiots who thought Kopech was done, what do you say? And I said it was the Royals. Let's wait a bit and see if he can put it together over a stretch. Hopefully for this team he can, just not sold after a good outing versus a very bad ball club. Who said he was done, though?
No one said he was done. He was, dude.
But he called them all idiots.
You could trade him tomorrow, and there'd be 31 teams salivating for this kid, even to be in the bullpen.
He didn't just call them idiots, but he doubled down. He said, all you idiots.
And the guy's, I think he was a lawyer. I think he's a lawyer, his dad.
Yeah.
And, no one was saying he was done. No one would say a 25, 26-year-old would say he was done. Combs going after MLB players.
I'll go after anybody. It could have been Michael Kopech himself. It could have been Kopech himself. I would have said the same thing. Dude, calm down. First of all, nobody ever said you were done. Second of all, you can't be bad over a stretch and then just be like, oh yeah, what do you say now? No, do it for a stretch. You have to do it for the same stretch that you were bad, and then you might be able to say something.
Royals and say something.
Right.
Kansas City Royals, though, actually a better hitting team than you think. But you're right. I mean, but I always look at the
that's
stuff.
because I got to play the White Sox 3 times.
I always look at the stuff, and I'm like, yeah, right. I always look at the stuff, and I always say, like, if the stuff is there and it's in the strike zone, like that's a something. Like when he gave up 5 runs in 5 innings, and you kept on calling it 4 2/3 innings, and it was 5 innings against the Astros. You kept on saying 4 2/3, but it was 5 innings, and I want to correct you again, even though that was a month ago. I want to correct you again.
Are you relitigating a show from a month ago?
But it was a month ago, but it happened anyway. It was still like the way that was. He gave up 5 runs, and the way he pitched for about 3 or 4 innings against them, he didn't give up a hit or a walk or anything for 3 or 4 innings against the Astros. Not that the Astros are like some juggernaut anymore, but
Doubting Thomas says, I love this program. Thank you, Doubting Thomas. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Megan. That's probably from my sister, I would think.
It doesn't matter. Why did you have to say that out loud? Now, like, it's like when somebody calls into a radio station. It's like, hey, you guys are doing a really good job. They don't have to say, hey, that was my aunt. You're just like, oh, that's probably my sister saying it. Like, somebody loves the show. I don't care who it is.
Doubting Thomas could have said that. He could have said that. He has a soft spot deep in the center of that diamond cold heart.
If you're a Chicago sports fan, I don't see any way that you couldn't love this show, because we are so equal in our anger, in our hatred, in our honesty, in our inaccuracy. like we love doing what we do. We love bringing it to you guys. Yep. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you guys again next week, next Sunday. We're out of time. We've been on for over an hour and 40 minutes. Ryan is going to get yelled at when he goes upstairs to try to put the kid to bed. And so we're going to end it here. But thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. Catch us next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Are you flexing?
Why can't I flex? I don't know what else.
That was like when Randy Moss used to flex, and it was like, what are you flexing?
I hope it's like Randy Moss. I am.
What